Marshall, welcome.
Hi.
So glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Very grateful for this.
It's been really fun to watch your career blossom, much like the shirt you're wearing today.
Yes.
In springtime here, but you have just done kind of amazing things, and so I'm super grateful to have you here and learn a little bit more about you.
Absolutely, and the beautiful thing about commercial real estate, from my experiences, you work hard and hopefully good things happen. So.
Well, I mean, there is that, right? Like, kind of, we wake up every morning unemployed, but we're we have unlimited opportunity too, right?
Yes.
So, and it's the harder you work, and the smarter you work, and the more opportunity there is. But You have to create it for yourself. It doesn't come to you.
Correct.
So let's go way back. Like, how I understand that you were not born in the United States.
No, I was born in Vietnam. Came here back in 1993. I was 5 years old.
And how big was your family?
Our family is really big. My mom's side of the family, there's like 12 siblings, including herself. So she's the oldest. My dad is also the oldest, and he came from a family that has 12 siblings as well.
Wow.
So after the Vietnam War, my grandpa on my dad's side, he fought for the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese with the Americans. And he was a lieutenant. And luckily, him and my two uncles had the opportunity to come to the U.S., in the 80s, and then slowly sponsor each kid over. So
really interesting. And what a big thing. I mean, my grandfather did that, came at 16 from Sweden with, just to connect with his brother here, and left his family behind. But I mean, to leave your whole culture and your whole world, and when you're 5, and I'm sure not speaking a ton of English at age 5, right?
Yeah.
And your family just picks up and leaves. Do you have siblings too?
Yes, I have 2 older sisters.
Okay.
So I grew up in, a family with a lot of women. So
I love it. So you come to the United States at age 5, and with your family, and what a blessing it is to grow up in this country, I think. But it's a big step for your family to do that. I mean, it had to be a little bit challenging at the beginning.
Oh, very challenging. My mom was a accountant in Vietnam, and then my dad was an architect.
Really?
So when they came to the U.S., it's interesting how a lot of the Vietnamese, they got into the nail salon business. That's why there's, I'm not sure how that happened. I read a few stories of how that came about, but it was like the quickest way to earn an income without going back to school. So.
Wow, so that's what they did.
Yes, so they got into the nail salon business right away, and then my mom started her own business in 1996. So
her own nail salon business. Yep. Okay.
3 years later.
Wow, that's impressive. And I think it's, having done leases with when English isn't your first language, it's hard enough to get a lease done when you don't do it every day, and you're, fully, speak English and can read and write and all that, and to be able to understand all the nuances of leasing space and dealing with landlords and all of that, and it not being your English, not being your first language.
Right, and that's how I got somewhat introduced to commercial real estate, was reading with informal experience, and none of us knew what we were signing because the English wasn't there, and we didn't know that we had to hire an attorney. So a lot of times they just signed
whatever.
Yep, as long as here's the rent, here's a date. That you pay rent, and my mom, she never asked for TIs. so back in the days, we didn't know what TIs was until I got into this business.
Right. Yeah. Tenant improvement dollars. I think I've seen a lot of those kind of crazy leases. I'm super grateful, by the way, for the nail salons around here. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
But I mean, okay, so you end up going to school here. You went to the University of Minnesota, right?
Yes.
And when did you start helping out in the family business?
So I grew up in Richfield.
Okay.
And then we moved to Plymouth when I was in 8th grade. And during the time, we moved there because my mom, she opened up a salon there. And it was during high school when I was helping read some of the leases and making sure that the rent was the right amount number that we agreed on. And that was the first start. And my sister was doing that as well. But throughout college, I would actually go through the leases when there were certain issues. My mom would actually ask, "Hey, can you look through the leases and see if this is correct?" But yeah, so it started out in majority of the time. It started out in college at the U. So.
And what did you go to school for?
I studied business and psychology.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
Interesting. And at that time, did you know commercial real estate is what I want to do?
You know, a lot of where our culture, our parents, they want us to be like a doctor, an engineer,
They
lawyer.
want you to be?
Yep.
Okay,
so,
got it.
So during that time, I tried it, and I didn't like it. I realized teachers always said, I talk too much. So I was like, all right, if I talk too much, let me find a career that will help me, take advantage of that. So commercial real estate in general was never a part of my plans. But I knew I liked business a lot. So I remember in high school, I would burn CDs, remember back in the days, and I'll sell to my friends for like $2. And then during college, I would always buy things and flip it. So sales was always been a part of me. I loved it. I tried a lot of different businesses. I made some money. I failed. I lost some money. But how the story came about was after college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And the only thing I knew was the nail salon business because after high school, I came out. I was the receptionist. I was cleaning the salon. And during college, same thing. To make some money as well. And then, I told my mom, hey, let me help you open up a salon. And she agreed to it. She didn't want me getting into the nail business, but I knew that, I need to do something because I think all of us, we go through in life where, especially after the university, we get lost and we're trying to figure things out. And that was part of my life where I was trying to figure things out. And then, I met a mentor. I met a guy, was our first client, and he became a mentor and dear friend of mine till this day. And then he was one that introduced me to commercial real estate.
Really?
Yep. So.
And he was in the business?
Yeah. Yep. So they own a lot of commercial assets here. So they're investors. And this was 2012 when I graduated, and then I think like 2014, 15, I kind of felt lost in life, and I think all of us go through that.
Absolutely.
And
sometimes. Yeah, different parts of your whole life, right?
Exactly. And then because of that, I usually never ask for help, and that was the first time I learned how to ask for help. And I'm very blessed to know Gary and
Gary Dotches, right?
Yep, Gary Dotches, and his brother's Bruce Dotches, and they own a bunch of properties.
I bought a building from Bruce once.
Yeah.
They're great people.
They're great people, very good at what they do. And Gary said, you should get into the business of something that's, that you're involved within the community, whether it was insurance, go franchise a nail business, go big with it, and then franchise it, or get into real estate. And when he said real estate, I said, well, like selling homes? He said, no, go sell buildings. I was like, okay. So being young, naive, and excited, I took his advice because, he had the lifestyle that I wanted. And I told Gary, I want to be like you when I grow up. And he said, well, if that's the case, then you should get into real estate. So he introduced me to a lot of people during that time. And this was also when I was trying to get my license. I've met with like 24 people. And
wow.
With market leaders here, and there was no opportunity, and I didn't understand why, because I had some informal experience, not real experience,
right?
But I knew a lot more than the interns that these big companies were hiring. But I think everything happens for a reason, and luckily I got, I went to a Tony Robbins event, so my sister was like, "Hey, you should look into this guy named Tony Robbins." And I was like, who is Tony Robbins? Well, I've heard of him, but I never understood like the power of self-development during that time. And I was getting a little bit demotivated because nobody wanted to hire me. And I went to Tony Robbins' event and came back supercharged, excited, and believing that I could do it, and then I got hired, so which is kind of neat.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
kind of like you had to convince yourself first.
Right. I think you have to believe in yourself before anybody else can. And,
I think that's true.
And I'm happy I went through that struggle because I have perspective. And if I didn't go through that, I think I would, if it was so easy, then I would have taken for granted. I think just how people are as individuals. But I was happy I went through the struggles at the very beginning. So
well, and there's nothing super easy about getting into this business.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's, it's not like here's this big chunky salary and lots of benefits, and it's kind of like here's a desk and a phone and go
Right.
figure it out, right?
Right, exactly. And I think in this business, it's so hard to teach people, and you have it, or I usually tell people you have it or you don't. But however, if you're willing to work hard, you would definitely have it. So.
Yeah. And there's different components of the business too, right? You have to have kind of the financial sense and the relationship, the ability to talk
Yes,
and
yes.
communicate with people, and the drive. And I mean, all of those are kind of equally important. I think.
Exactly. And I think that's why when I looked into real estate, I noticed one thing that I loved was everyone needs each other. So whether if you're on the other side, you need each other to get the deal done. So we had a common ground, which is getting the deal done.
Right. Even though all the other objectives were opposite. Right?
Exactly. The seller wants to get the deal done, the buyer wants to get the deal done, the brokers wants to get the deal done.
I like that.
So we work together, and the prize is getting the deal done. Because first time I worked in corporate when I was 17 years old, I didn't like it. It was like in order for me to get to the next level, somebody had to lose that position, and I never liked that mindset.
Interesting.
Yep. And I was 17. I was, I worked at, I did some IT stuff for a big company here, and I didn't like it. So it kind of traumatized me a little bit.
Well, it's good to know what you don't like, because at least you can cross that off the list and kind of move on and keep looking for what you do like. Well, you resonate really well in this industry, right? So how did you get started? Like, how did you, it's not like someone hands you a big book of business.
No, I've always built great relationships with people throughout my life. Is just who I am, because I think I got the entrepreneurship from my mom.
Love that.
And I remember during college, during the university, I would go eat at restaurants like once a week or twice a week, and I got to know the owners really well. And when I think about it now is, how, when I got into real estate, the first thing I thought was, how do I build my book of business? And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, the people that I met all these years, and, they always gave me discounts at the restaurants because I ate there quite often with my girlfriend during the time, which is my wife now.
Oh, fun.
And, but this was during the time when I just got my license, trying to find a brokerage to take my, to hold my license. And one day I was in Burnsville. I came to eat at this restaurant. And the first thing I said was, the restaurant was really good, was, "Hi, my name is Marshall. I do commercial real estate, and I love your food here. Are you looking to expand or maybe relocate your business?" And luckily he said, "Yes, I want to expand." And that was my first deal. And I was
What restaurant was that?
It was during the time it was called Royal Buffet in Burnsville.
Okay.
And then he wanted to expand another buffet into Richfield. So we took over the former Old Country Buffet off of 66.
Oh, really?
And it was Lakes Buffet. And my first deal was with Robert Weiss. During the time he was with Mid-America, now with CBRE.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. and that's how I kind of got started. And then, a light bulb went off, was like, I realized that this business, it's a lifestyle. Everywhere we go, there's opportunities. We just have to ask that question. So that's how I got started, and that was my first client. I think that was my first or second week of commercial real estate. And every single person I haven't worked with my mom's friends at all, because I wanted to prove to myself that I could build a new book of business.
Right.
And because of that relationship, that's how the Asia Mall got started, the Pacifica Square, Burnsville, and now we're doing all these big developments around the country because of the one relationship.
Well, let's just dial it back a little bit, because you brought up a couple of cool projects that you're involved with, right? So the Asian Mall just opened this last fall.
November.
In November.
Yes.
In Eden Prairie,
Yes.
right? So tell me about how that deal came to be. I mean, you go from leasing restaurant spaces and small spaces, and you do this huge project.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of revolutionary, I think, for this, very new to this market.
Right.
It's hard to do something new. How did that all come to be?
I think the first thing is having a great team behind you, and we have such an amazing team where everyone complements each other. So because of that restaurant client that I was just mentioning, Shane, with the buffet, his uncle did a lot of restaurant construction, and he introduced me to his uncle one day, and then This was like, I think in 2017, and then end of 2018, his uncle introduced me to a guy named Amor. And Amor owns a bunch of restaurants right here. And we met, and they said, hey, our community, we want to do like a Chinatown or like an Asia Mall type of concept to bring people together, but also to share our culture with everyone. How do we do that? I was like, okay, I don't know the answer, but I'll figure it out. But what's important is just kind of share with me with the location you want to be in. And because of that, 2018, 19 hit. We looked at the Sam's Club I think it was the former one. It's
St. Louis Park?
Yep, the one St. Louis Park.
Okay.
And this was one right after they changed the zoning on it. So it would have been so difficult to reuse, to go through that process again. And then the Gander Mountain came about.
In Eden Prairie.
Because we wanted to be close to the Mall of America, off of 494, close to the airport, to kind of make it like a destination.
Okay.
So, and being close to the Mall of America was because majority of people at the mall that visit, they're all, not from, they're not from Minnesota. So we want to create something where after the mall, they can go to the Asia Mall.
So you're finding people are doing that?
Oh, a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's become a regional.
Yeah, it's becoming.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been so busy. We thought that it would die down, which it did a little bit, but the weekends are always busy, and we've been very fortunate.
But okay, this is 116,000 square feet or some odd
Yes.
number of. I mean, that's not like let's open a couple restaurants. I mean, how did you pull this off?
I think having the right team and the strategic partners, and a lot of the partners, we own like restaurants and whatnot. So having each person, and then Chan, one of the GCs, he understood the building really well and how to come about. We actually added we connected the old second level because there was a second floor mezzanine. So we connected that to create that round shape.
Okay.
And it took us and this was during COVID because we closed beginning of 2020. I'm sorry. This was we closed on beginning of 2021.
Okay.
And it took us 7 months to get approval from the city, and this was during COVID. So a lot of us were very nervous.
Yeah.
But we knew that if we are very close with our team, then we'll be very successful. But just having the right team, everyone, for me, I'm in the real estate side, so, and I need to understand what the GCs were doing, and just vice versa, and pulling it off was very challenging because, during COVID, everything was delayed, everything got super expensive, and I think just having the right team with the right vision, we knew that we were able to overcome it because nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But we already bought it, and we're like, we can't go back now. And so it was it was a hard time with everyone because our excitement went down, but we got a lot of media coverage, and that kind of helped excel the excitement again within us,
Yeah.
And we realized that if people are excited about this, then let's give us we'll give it 150%, and now we're 100% full.
That's amazing. So did you look, how did you have a vision for this? Did you look at are there similar projects around the country or?
Yeah, so we're not the first ones to do this.
Okay.
Around, big and high, I would say first tier markets, California, Texas, they've done a lot of these concepts where it was Asian focus. But for Minnesota wise, the Hmong community inspired us because they're very close together. And they opened up the Hmong village. There's Hmong town. So we were like, this is really cool. And how do we create something for all the communities? And then the Somali Mall as well, they have that for the community. But us, we were like, we didn't want a Vietnam town or we didn't want a Chinatown. Let's do an Asia town with a bunch of Asian restaurants, concepts to bring people together. And then so we can share this culture with the masses.
Wow.
So, and a lot of people within our community had the vision to do it, but I think the real estate part was a challenge because not many people understood commercial real estate.
Sure.
And and that's how
So you could
I
pull
got
it all
hired on.
together.
Yeah. So
And how many tenants are there?
I think we have like 22 stalls. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's all full now.
That's amazing. And it's busy. I mean, like there's people directing traffic.
Oh, it's very busy. So we actually signed a development agreement with the city. Is that because we knew that we were underparked, and if there was issues with parking, we had to build more parking. So, and that's what we're working on right now.
Really?
Yeah. And big shout out to Ozzy Driss and also Winnie Patterson. They're part of my leasing team, and they filled up all the spaces. So
That's amazing. And was there an architect involved as well?
yes, we worked. They worked with a guy named Frank Dwan.
Okay.
Yep. So he was the in-house architect working closely with the GC.
Okay. And now you're embarking on another similar project in Burnsville, right?
Yes. So the Burnsville project, it's interesting because a lot of people think it's gonna be another second like ethnic mall,
Okay.
but it's actually not because the developer, his name is Eddie Nee. He's actually my partner now, and he's known. So he's from Chicago. The headquarters in Chicago, but live in Ohio.
Okay.
But he's known within the Asian community as one of the largest Asian lifestyle center developer and investor in the country.
Really?
And he looked at Minnesota back in 2019, but there was no opportunity. And Burnsville was like our third like top location.
Okay.
When we didn't want it, it fell like on our laps, But I think it's gonna be very successful. But that one's gonna be a 50,000 square foot grocery store, a international food hall, and we're gonna do a extension of the building, which is gonna be another 15,000 square feet. But this is a very important project because the Burnsville Center is there's been a lot of issues with the previous owner. Mismanaged it, so it's a big task to take on into helping revitalize a regional mall.
It's a sad mall
It is.
now.
But I think we're very confident that once we build the grocery store, it's going to create a lot of traffic. So the mindset coming into this is how do we put in uses that make people come?
Yeah.
So the first thing that we thought about was the grocery store. So we're partners with Ensign Market, so we're expanding with them throughout the country. The food hall concept. And food halls are hot right now.
They are.
And, so I think we'll be very successful, and hopefully we can be a great catalyst to all the other tenants that's there, and also to be able to revitalize them all.
That whole project. Yeah. That sounds really exciting. What is the timing on that one?
So we got everything, we signed a contract with Steiner Construction. So shout out to them. Patrick, I've been working with Patrick at Steiner, and they've been amazing to work with. And we finalized everything with Studio M as well for the architect. And we're looking to start the project hopefully this spring. So demo and everything. So
Really? And then when would you open?
within the 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super exciting. I mean, you're still so young.
Yes,
and you're now doing other development projects and buying properties, and you're still a broker, and I mean, you got all kinds of stuff going on.
Right,
What's exciting you right now?
I think so. This is my first time going through a potential. I think we're. A lot of people said we're in a recession already in commercial real estate. Because I remember in 2008, I was at the university and I didn't know what happened. But it's very exciting because when I was working with a lot on the brokerage side, I knew that in my mindset, and what my mentors told me was that, Marshall, one day if you want to become a really good investor, learn how to do brokerage really good, because you can connect with tenants. You can understand every part of the deal, and with the help of Rafiq Moore, he's one of my mentors, and we own some properties together. He's a contrarian, knowing how to work deals, being creative with it. And he always taught us, make sure to have a mindset of a investor. So one day you can become a good investor. So because of that, I got really good with brokerage. I love brokerage, and I think it's just a good way to transition into the investment side. But my goal in real estate has always been development. I love the whole aspect of designing phase to getting it complete and everything in between. high risk, but also high reward as well.
Really high risk.
But I think if you have the right team, the right strategic partners, we can always hope for the best result. And a lot of developments we're doing is very community based. So I think that's where we're winning as well. But also they're very meaningful projects. So they're very emotional projects in the sense of we do have an attachment to it. And I think once you do that, the rewards will happen by default.
Sure.
So yes, you do it to make money, but we're also making a pretty fun impact within the community as a whole.
Well, I've done a few deals with you and have worked with you and watched you work, and I really think that the way you go about things is so much people first and results first, and you're not chasing the deal and the money as much as you're really
right.
I mean, you live that and walk that. That's not just what you put lip service to.
Yes, and I think that's so important in our business. And you've been doing this business for some time.
A long time. Yep, yeah, I'm old.
We are as old as we're ever going to be because the next day we're another day older, right? Yeah, so today you're still young. And that's the beauty about this business is that the people do come first.
Yeah. 100%.
And for me, I want to sleep well at night. I don't want to think about, if I did something wrong. Integrity is huge for me. I'm a big believer in karma, good or bad. And yes, I've been screwed a few times, but it's okay, and we grow from that.
Yeah.
But I think once you put the people first, more opportunity will come. Yeah. Because the money will always come. This is the business where you work hard, and you have the right people involved. The outcome will always be the money. Yeah. But for me, I get excited the most because I always ask people this question, and I'm asking you as well, is that what part of the deal excites you the most?
That's a really good question. The part that excites me the most is getting to the point where you've reached a hurdle that nobody seems like they can figure out, and taking the emotion out of it, really understanding what's important to the parties that are involved,
right,
and then coming up with a solution to solve it, and then take that catapults it to the finish line.
Right.
So solving that at that place where you get stuck and figuring out how to make it work for everybody, I think that's the part that makes me the most excited.
Awesome.
What about you? That's a good question.
So,
I love that you asked me a question.
For me, it's when the other party says yes, they approve the deal. I think that's like where my dopamine goes the highest. And then afterwards, because that everything's been approved, or even the city approval, like just anything that says approved or they like the deal, let's move forward. So that's like the biggest hurdle for me. And then afterwards, you try to figure things out,
Yeah.
And
by the time it closes, it's kind of anticlimactic.
Right,
because you
exactly.
worked really hard to get there, and you're just like, whew.
Yep. And I think, and I tell my team this is, we're highly paid storytellers. Why do the landlords want to give you an opportunity versus other group, right? So sharing that story with them, why this tenant is a good tenant for the center, what advantages that they have for the center, what are some of the disadvantages, because we want to balance that out. And why is my client is a good buyer for the property, and why am I a good investor for the property, vice versa. So I think sharing the story is exciting once they understand why you might be the best candidate.
Wow, I love that. I'm going to use that. Highly paid storytellers. Yes. It's so true, though, because, it really is. But it takes understanding.
Yes, exactly.
Both sides,
exactly.
Understand and really listening to what is important, and understanding your business and diving in. And that is another, I think, really fun part of the business is that we get to understand other people's businesses.
Absolutely.
And see how somehow they did this and this and this, and they make money doing that. It's kind of, it's amazing.
And when I look at some of the top producers, I'm like, man, what an art. It's so beautiful the way that they get deals done and how they communicate to the other party. And I grew up stuttering a lot, so I've always had this insecurity of speech. So like I've always loved communication. So growing up, getting into this business now, I knew that I had to force myself to like communicate well and tell stories. And because of Gary, he said, you have to learn how to let the other party know why you're the best candidate for this. And because of that, I realized, hey, we're actually highly paid storytellers.
Boy, that is really smart. So, I mean, some of the things you said today are just really brilliant. Like that to me is really brilliant. And because so much of it is not just about the numbers, it's about the story and the story of the concept, the story of the person, the story of the project, the story. That's really, really interesting. And then I think, you talk about how you, as hard as you work, you can, is how you get rewarded if you work really hard. And I love the fact that you're just walking in and talking to people and developing relationships, and that turns into business.
Right.
Not everybody can do that.
No, it's hard. It's tough. I was shy, but I knew that if I mess up, the only person that knew that I messed up is myself.
Yeah.
They're not gonna know much, right? So it's and Shane was my first client. Also, Kaheen was just the guy that opened up Afro Deli. He actually won Minnesota Small Business like the SBA award. So I think he's going national next month at the White House.
Oh, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
For like new brokers out there, sometimes how I met Kaheen was actually a very funny story. Not funny story, but like where the opportunity came about. I saw an article, 2017, says landlord and tenant dispute. So it triggered. I was like, hey, you know what? If there's a dispute, he might need a new location. So that's when I went down that same day, and then Kaheen was opening up doors to his customers, and I introduced myself. So him and Shane was my first client in real estate.
Yeah,
so,
amazing.
And we're good friends to this day.
That's just so amazing. Well, I can't even, having met you many years ago and watched how you've become this huge success, I can't even imagine what is in your future. Is there any projects you're currently working on that you're excited about, or anything coming up that we should be watching you do, I guess? Yeah,
there's a lot of pressure, which I like and I don't like, because there's, I don't want, I want to over deliver but under promise a lot of the times. But going into this phase of the commercial real estate world, you see a lot of distress going on. So I'm excited about being able to hopefully buy certain properties to turn it around. Not only deals in Minnesota, but also different parts of the country. So we're developing and also buying a lot of these malls for the ethnic developments. And I'm very excited about that. But most important, as of right now, the Burnsville project is the number one priority. Asia Mall is complete. We're going to do the grand opening, because we're still in the soft opening phase right now. So all the restaurants, tenants, retail shops will open towards the end of summer. So we'll do the big grand opening then. But for right now, I think Minnesota, for the projects, I would say Burnsville. And because there's a lot of pressure in helping revitalize that and working with different brokers and the city, how we can do this together and make a successful project. And the more good projects we have, it's a positive for the industry.
Yeah,
so
I love that. And it's a big project. You have your hands full.
Right.
And I would say that.
And I'm still trying to figure things out all the time. People that own malls, I'm like, man, you guys are genius. How do you structure these deals? I work with Carrie Charleston a lot for the mall, at the Mall America.
Yeah.
And she shares a lot of cool, interesting ideas and how they go about things. It's very interesting. It's different. It's a different animal, but I'm willing to learn. So.
Well, you've done amazing, and I love doing deals with you and knowing
your team is amazing, by the way.
Oh,
every single person. It's always been so easy to do deals with.
Oh, that's
and
nice. I'm super blessed.
And all you guys, all you ladies actually have this aura, excitement, happy, getting things done. So it's always been a good blessing.
Thanks.
To work with you all.
I should pay you for that plug. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so.
Well, I look forward to doing a lot more with you and watching you just create generational wealth for your family and just not taking no for an answer and just figuring things out and helping people along the way and putting your teams together.
Yeah.
It's a pretty magical, I guess, a magical way of doing business.
Right. It's that's why we all love real estate. We create magic.
It's
So
in your blood for
yes,
sure.
yes.
For
That's why you see old people still doing deals.
Right.
The deal junkies.
Totally. Well, you're clearly one of the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for
and
joining
I learn
me today.
I learn from every single person. So
Yeah,
thank you.
well, I can see that I'm learning from you today for sure.
Thank you.